Hi, I'm Louise Pennell for Advanced TV and welcome to our first Leaders to You. I'm joined by Andy Walsh, who is Director of High Performance for Red Bull. Fear or failure seems to be the main characteristic that comes out with thrill seekers that you deal with all the time. How do they overcome that fear, or do they have too much?
We want them to have a little bit of fear, first of all. Fear without any regard for the consequences is a dangerous combination. But for us, we treat fear as it's a real opportunity to learn. It's a real place where growth occurs when you're right on that edge. So what we try and establish is we try and encourage a little bit of fear in the athletes, and we try and work with them towards, I wouldn't say mastery of that fear, but understanding what that fear is like and what it could potentially do to them. So we want them to push a little past where they're comfortable. We want them to break through a little bit and know what that feels like, but not go too far so the consequences are bad. And then we also use that sort of level of that benchmarking to try and make them understand that if you do fail, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And we have a real challenge with athletes who come through with a lot of talent, and that's all they have. And when they finally get beaten, and somebody will eventually beat you, no matter what you do or how good you are. And when they're finally beaten, they can't deal with it, they don't know how to cope with it. So we don't want someone who's ridden the gravy train on just sheer talent getting right to the top, because when they get knocked down, we have real trouble getting them back up.
So it's important to look beyond the prize, so to speak.
Definitely. We try and have them understand what they're trying to achieve and really understand what fear can potentially do in that space, but then look beyond that. Look to what they really want to improve in, what they really want to push themselves at and how they want to push it, and we use that to sort of benchmark them against it. Managers
often face challenges leading their team into an uncertain future. What steps can be done in practice to reduce fear of the unknown and even shaping the future together? So getting your team to overcome fear and move forward.
I think the simplest solution for us is when you try and understand the motivation or the cause of that fear. Is it fear of uncertainty in the future? Then practice, play in that space. Try and create scenarios for your team that allows them to do things with uncertain outcomes, and learn that ultimately what you think about fear and your anxiety about what it could potentially do to you is usually a lot worse than the actual reality of it. Yeah. And I think giving people that idea that they can play in this space and get the opportunity to explore it a little bit for themselves and as a team, I think you'll start to see that they'll start to enjoy it. They'll find that they're pushing the envelope a little. Oh, it didn't kill me. Oh, I like that little bit of adrenaline potentially. And then they get that idea that they get behind them and it starts to drive the team on its own. We systematically look forward and try and understand what our playing field is going to look 5 years in the future. Right. And we really try and set up almost a level of mastery of practice of, okay, if we sit down and think about what we're going to have to do in 5 years to win, how do we step that back? And through that education as well, we sort of break down a little bit of that uncertainty. Yeah. We sometimes have to pick a path that may not be given. We have to put our best guess forward. Yeah. But even that process of improving understanding of what the potential pitfalls and opportunities are 4 to 5 years in advance, which is part of a very simple part of sports modelling. Yeah. That sometimes allows them to sort of get a little bit more comfortable and push a little harder.
So you're looking pretty far down the future, as a business person should be?
I think so. I mean, I haven't spoken to a business person yet who sort of doesn't do that as naturally part of their day-to-day sort of program. I think what sport's really good at is we know that in 5 years we're going to be competing at a certain place or a certain time, and we systematically look forward and say the sport has been on this trajectory, the moves and plays have been going like this, the fitness has been doing this, the time for get-ups basically has been doing this, and we look at that whole model and say, okay, we know in 5 years if we extrapolate that out, it's going to be like this, or it's going to be close to this, and we start to practice for that now. Wow. We don't practice for what it takes to win today.
Thanks for watching Leaders to You. I'm Louise Pennell for Advanced TV.